All right, and welcome back to the First Team Fantasy Podcast. Yeah, myself, Schiff, here with my co-host Derek,
Yes, sir.
and we are here for the Waiver Wire episode this week. Gonna start off. Yes, it's week 6. Have more bye weeks. Luckily, we get Jared Goff and Jalen Hurts off of bye, but
hmm
Patrick Mahomes. I know we've been talking about his performances lately, but he as well. I'd have to check which other teams are going on bye. Honestly, I
The Vikings,
believe. And
the Rams,
the
and Dolphins.
there we go. Vikings, Rams, Dolphins, Chiefs.
Yeah.
So Sam Darnold is not an option. Matt Stafford wasn't really the best option. And yeah, so this week, if you do need a streaming quarterback, though, I think my top option is obviously Kirk Cousins against Carolina.
yeah.
We just saw what Caleb Williams was able to do against Carolina. He's another good option going up against Jacksonville at home. The Bears have been, I think they've won their last 8 straight games at home, so they will be going for their ninth in a row against a defense that has looked very fantasy friendly.
Yeah.
And another nastier option, if you really need one, is Daniel Jones going up against the Bengals, whose defense has been again, very fantasy friendly. Jones has been able to do a little bit of work on the ground, and if Malik Neighbors is back, that will
I don't even
prove.
think that one's that nasty, to be fair to Daniel Jones. He's been playing well lately. And yeah,
I
with
mean,
Malik
yeah,
Neighbors,
we talked about it. Daniel Jones is sitting at the quarterback 14 right now. So, it just depending on who you have as a starter. I'm not necessarily like, I really like the Kirk Cousins matchup against Carolina and the Caleb. It's just a bit harder to tell yourself that Daniel Jones is the right start, but it is a good matchup.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, if you wanted to go into the running backs,
Yeah, I mean, by far the top waiver wire is Tank Bigsby. He's been running the most efficiently in Jacksonville. We know ETN's dealing with that shoulder injury that it seems like he's been dealing with, and it seems like he re-aggravated it pretty heavily. He's been running the rock extremely well. Outside of him, the only other real flyer I'm willing to take is Tyrone Tracy. He's 34% rostered now after this past week. We saw what he just did against the Seahawks. And I mean, he's younger. We got to see with Singletary coming back, but I do have interest in Tyrone Tracy. Outside of that, when I, go through the list, like you have Zeke's being dropped in a lot of leagues. Roshan's still heavily available. He's been getting in the end zone, but DeAndre Swift's been playing a lot better, so it doesn't seem like he's actually going to take over that backfield or anything like that. And then we go through like Jaleel McLaughlin, Damian Pierce. Like, I don't know if you had another name on the running backs, but
all right, if we want to get real nasty, so the Joe Mixon situation has been confusing to say the least. He went from day to day to week, now back to day without knowing whether or not he is going to play this week.
mm-hmm.
Someone who has been now, obviously, Cam Akers was the guy that we were highlighted, but I've been talking about Dario Gumbawale. He happened to get 6 catches for, oh, I can't remember here. Let me,
57 yards on
six
7
catches for
targets.
50 on set. He's been a part of the pass
Yeah.
game. And if it's going to be another week without Joe Mixon, if you need an emergency like running back, you're playing PPR, half PPR, this guy has value.
Yeah.
And that's really it. And then I guess if just highlighting if you're in one of the 35% of leagues on sleeper that Rico Dowdle is available or And I mean, Jace Brown can't even really bring him up. He's rostered in 72% of leagues now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if those guys are available, definitely going out and getting them above all.
Yeah.
But Tyrone Tracy did look very good in his work that he got. So, long term, he might be someone who gets some run. But going into the wide receivers, I think it's a bit difficult. Um, I mean, you have Alec Pierce, who every time he's involved, it happens to be really good production. His three good games have been, well, very good games. In fact, yeah, his targets are never going. I mean, the most targets he got in the game was week 2 when he got 7 targets and 5 catches. But other than that, he's a home run play that you're really banking on if like something that we talked about. If you happened to play Darnell Mooney and Kirk Cousins on Thursday, like someone you played
Mm-hmm.
against had them on Thursday night, and you're going in just needing a home run, that's when you'd play like an Alec Pierce as more of a you're swinging for the fences because if he
For
does
sure.
get production on his 2, 3 targets, you know that he is an incredible deep threat right now, and it's come through 3 of 5 weeks. Um, but other than that, I mean, the guy that I'm really looking at, I think, is Jalen Tolbert.
Yeah.
Aside from the obvious Juju Smith-Schuster after his performance last night, that is going to be a very big one. We just saw, I mean, it's like we talked about, kind of like with Kareem Hunt. And obviously, if he's still available, we saw he's rostered quite heavily now,
Yeah.
especially after last week. But if there's a chance, but with Juju, I think he's only rostered in about 8% of leagues right now. That's obviously going to change after the waivers run tomorrow. Derek, you did a really good job going out and preemptively picking him up. We
It
talked
was a
about that
shot
before
in
the
the
game.
dark.
It was, but it wasn't because the process was there.
Yeah.
We talked about how he had been productive on this team before. He and he's coming back to a team that is in need of weapons.
Yeah.
Not saying that he's the best possible weapon, but he has rapport with the quarterback already. So, I mean, it was a good call. It worked out, I think. And like we said in our review of the game, I don't think 130 yards is in the cards for him every week. I don't think the chunk
For
plays are
sure.
in the cards for him every week, but the targets probably will be.
Yeah.
So I really do like that one. Him and Jalen Tolbert are probably my top two this week. And then I don't think Raymond McLeod is a bad option. And then if you want to look at like Michael Wilson on the Arizona Cardinals, I think he has like a 74% catch rate right now. So
Yeah. No, and that's, I mean, and this is when we're starting to get deep. Like, you have guys, like Christian Watson is dropping heavily. He's only 47% rostered, so there's a 50-50 shot he's available in your league. But I just, dudes, especially that are known to be a bit injury prone, like Christian Watson is going to just eat a roster spot on your roster and potentially never, crack your. That's the thing. When you're picking up guys, if you're not going to be willing to play these guys, if an injury happens or you need a flex start, don't pick them up. That's the whole thing. Like, guys on your bench, we know they're your bench players, but you have to be willing to play guys on your bench if needed. If you're not willing to, then there's no reason to even roster them, to be honest.
yeah, and I mean that being said, it's different with different players. Like it depends on the need for your team. For example, if you're really lacking in depth right now, dealing with injuries, some guys aren't working out like you thought they would. A guy like Jalen Tolbert, who is looking like he's actually going to fit
Mm-hmm.
into that wide receiver 2 role fairly well in Dallas, I wouldn't mind going out and spending up on him this week. If that's what your roster needs, there's no point in sitting and waiting and saying there might be another guy that comes. I mean, go out and get yourself a depth piece,
Yeah.
something like that. And these are guys like we were talking about. Yeah, I took my shots on Johnston and Wicks, but Mooney, who I spent $4 on, just happened to grab him one week. He happens to be my best depth piece at this point in the season.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, just things like that that I wouldn't necessarily like go out and just roster Rashad Bateman for no reason. There's certain guys like that. It's like you're not just letting them sit on your bench. It's a spot start is a spot start. You go out, pick them up for a week. It's like a rental, and then I'm not just letting like Jalen Naylor had his run. Now it's time to
Let him go.
recycle him for the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. And the tight end position is I don't want to say easier this week, but obviously, we're going to be without Travis Kelce, Colby Parkinson. We get Godare back. We don't really get anyone from the Titans. We get Sam Laporta back. But there's injuries. Evan Ingram's lingering injury. David Njoku, a new injury. So there is need at the tight end position. A guy I really like looking at the waiver. My number one's got to be Tyler Conklin. He's the past 3 weeks seen 6 targets, 8 targets, and 9 targets. He's on the field for 90% of the snaps on average. He's gone double digits 2 of the past 3 weeks. Just for the volume he's getting alone, the looks he's getting alone, I'd say he's probably one of your safer bets if you need to go out and get a tight end. You can roll the dice on a guy. Cade Otton hasn't been bad. He's also out there dang near 100% of the snaps. He saw 8 targets, 9. He only saw 4 this past week. But, I mean, he's involved. He's gotten over 7 fantasy points the past 3 weeks at the tight end position. We can't ask for too much more. How do you feel? In this one, I don't even think this one's gross. I think his involvement, if Taysom Hill plays this week and Derek Carr does not, how involved is he going to be? But that offense could also be so poor that it doesn't matter if he gets more
Uh,
looks.
Honestly, this one is tough. Especially if it's either Jake Hainer or Spencer Radler. It's going to be the first start of the season for either one of them going up against a very much hated division rival.
Yeah.
So this one's tough for me to make any plays like that. I mean, you could go ahead and make the Taysom play. I'd feel almost just as comfortable playing Juwan Jennings in this one just because I really don't know what the offense is going to look like
Mm-hmm.
under with a different quarterback. So yeah, that one's a bit tough. I mean, just what they might do with Taysom, especially like you're saying, given the fact that Derek Carr's out, it just makes it difficult. Taysom's not 100% healthy. What are the Saints going to do this week? So
Yeah, and I mean, outside of that, it starts getting gross. Like you have Noah Fant, Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, Eric All. It's just tough. I mean, hopefully, you shouldn't be dealing with too many teams that are going out and actively still looking for tight ends. Hopefully, you have a backup tight end rostered because it's just shown the need to have 2 tight ends rostered on your team. One more, if Evan Ingram does miss again, I think Brenton Strange can be a really good play as well. He broke double digits. He got in the end zone. He's someone that's decently involved in that offense. I mean, I think he could be, if you have to, I'm not going to say he's going to have a good week, but I think he's better option than, like a Noah Fant or people like that if Ingram does miss.
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's definitely been there. And we've talked about just the usage of the tight end in the Jacksonville offense, which, I mean, clearly it's an important position to them. So, and yeah, and just to mention, if Tucker Craft is possibly available, he's rostered in 67% of leagues on Sleeper. Definitely go out, and he's the guy that you want to try to get. But it's not uh, 33% of leagues. So if you're in one of those, good for you.
Yeah.
Just a couple other guys to touch on. Just oh yeah, Jalen Tolbert talked about him. He's only rostered in 19% of leagues, so somebody you could readily go out and get.
Mm-hmm.
Darnell Mooney's still available in 33% of leagues. Um, yeah, I talked about Rico Dowdle available in 35% on Sleeper. And then just guys like Romeo Dobbs. I mean, a lot of people, me included, I dropped him last week for Dontavian Wicks. It's still an offense where it's like, yes, it's Jaden Reed as the number one, but still kind of figuring out who is going to take over that number two role. So just a good possible speculative ad. And then Alan Lazard, still only rostered in 47% of leagues, a guy you might actually be able to go out and get.
Yeah.
Um, Not the sexiest pickup, but he has had clear involvement, and him and Rodgers have a connection, especially around the goal line. And as far as, I mean, that's pretty much, I think we can stop it there.
Yeah. Really quick, I want to touch on. Did you see the kicker that the Niners decided to go with? It's Matthew Wright. Last season, he appeared in one game for the Panthers, finished with a -1 fantasy point, missed his only field goal attempt, and got cut. They worked out people like Anders Carlson and everything. The reason I'm bringing him up is because he's the projected number one kicker. If you lost to Jake Moody and you're looking for a replacement, I'm going somewhere else, like a Cairo Santos for the week, even a even potentially a Jake Elliott. I'm looking for that Eagles offense to get back on track. I just think there's other options. Look for a high scoring matchup, pick a kicker in that, and hope it goes well.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know about going with a backup kicker. I mean, it could end up like how Austin Siebert did, but the chances of that, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll about do it. Good luck to you all on this waiver wire. If there's someone that you want to get, I mean, guys, the season is only so long, and we're 6 weeks in, or we're 5 weeks in, going on the sixth now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just let your fab sit for the entire year and waste away.
Yeah.
Go out and take a shot on somebody, use it. I mean, that's what it's there for. If you have zero fab at the end of the season and you got valuable players, you did something right. If you have all your fab at the end of the season, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
So it's like go out, take your shots, take a chance on some of these players. You don't know what you're going to end up with. So just make the gamble,
Yeah.
especially if you're sitting there like 1-4, 0-5. Like there's no reason for you to be sitting there with all your fab.
Yeah.
But Derek, if you have anything else to add,
No, I think you covered it well. That's was going to be the thing that I touched on is yeah, do not finish your season. At some point, these good waiver pickups will become thinner and thinner as the season goes on and roles are established within teams. Take the opportunities. Jalen Tolbert, take the opportunity. Brandon Cooks is on the IR. He's going to be the wide receiver too. Jump at the opportunities while they're there because eventually they won't be.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's only a finite amount of time that certain people have certain opportunities sometimes. So
Yeah.
you got to take advantage. And with that, we will leave you like we always do. Thank you guys once again for all the support and come back next time. Take more reps with the first team.
Yes, sir.